You know, I'd like to have a nickel for every accident caused by a slick of oil on a factory floor. In this shop or any shop, a supervisor has to watch out for accidents if he's to keep up the production that's expected of him. Of course, that means quality production. These things are the responsibility of the supervisor. And being a good supervisor means more than just meeting production schedules. It means knowing how to get along with your workers and making a department a good place to work in, a safe place. Putting up safety rules on the bulletin board is one thing you can do, but you've got to watch for the man who works without his goggles or shield, or a man who operates his machine without the safety guard. The supervisor who's too busy to do anything about it and says the workers ought to know the safety rules will find himself making out many accident reports and looking for new workers for the jobs. Take Larry Daniels. He thought he was pretty good. Do you know why? He read a book on how to be a good supervisor. He read about improving working conditions. So he had a new light installed. Yeah, and a platform built for a new worker. He thought he did a good job, but there were plenty of things he overlooked. For instance, it never occurred to him to find out just why his men smoked where they weren't supposed to. Never occurred to him to find out. Superintendent Bradbury found the reason, and it didn't take him long to do something about it. He ordered the place cleaned up, and it stayed cleaned up. Making a shop a good place to work in is more than just making it a clean, safe shop. The way a supervisor treats his men, the way he talks to them, and what he does about their problems is important. That's working conditions, too. Now, over in the number 2 department, Joe Graff is the supervisor.
Come on in, fellas.
Hello, George.
Sit down. Hi, Bill. What's on your mind?
Joe, isn't there something you can do about getting the company to get us another place to eat?
Well, you know, George, they've converted the restaurant into a new shop as an expansion move.
Yeah, but they said they were going to build us another restaurant.
The guys who bring our lunches have to throw half the stuff away. The heat and fumes spoil everything.
I didn't know they didn't sell it to bring anything anymore.
Suppose you wouldn't want to go to a restaurant. Why, you have to walk about a half a mile. By the time you get there, it's time to start back to work again.
Well, I'll see what I can do about it, fellas, and I'm glad you called my attention to it.
Okay, Joe. Thanks a lot.
Okay, George.
We'll be seeing you. Come on, folks.
Well, doggone it. It isn't my job to get a new cafeteria. It's up to the plant. I know they can't build one now. I gotta do something for the boys. Wonder what we can do with what we've got. About the lunches spoiling. Say, why not? I'll see Brad. So you see, Brad, that's the situation. And the men aren't happy about it.
I know you're right, Joe. Yet I don't know what can be done about it this time. The men are going to get a new restaurant just as soon as this conversion and expansion program is through. Right now, I'm afraid we can't do a thing.
I've been thinking about this problem, and I think the men realize they can't have a new restaurant. But there's surely something we can do to keep those lunch boxes out of the heat and fumes. And I think I know what to do.
Well, what's your plan?
If we could put a box near the door of my department, like this, see? Where the men could put their lunch boxes. It would take a little wood, but I'm sure it would relieve the situation until we got a new restaurant.
It was a good idea, and work was started right away. Took a few pieces of lumber, and the plant was a much better place to work in. Not only because of what was done, but because of the way it was done. Yeah, the way a supervisor talks is important. Have you ever worked for a supervisor who bullied or yelled? Can you imagine what this one is saying? Nobody likes working for a supervisor like that. They'd rather work most anywhere else. they'd ask for a transfer, even if it meant taking a much harder job. Yes, the supervisor himself is a part of the working conditions. You know this kind of supervisor, the one who tells a man his suggestions and ideas are no good? He gets the man to tell him about his plan in every detail. He gets a lot of questions answered. And then he tells him it won't work and the idea isn't practical. But then, what does the supervisor do? He takes the plan to the boss, and now it's his idea. Sure, he gets the credit from the boss. But what do his men think? Then there's the supervisor who thinks only of himself. He tells you no matter what you've planned, you've got to work overtime. But he's one of the first to wash up. He gets ready to go home at the regular quitting time. There's a lot of work to do, but he's made other plans that can't be changed. Overtime is only for the guys who work for him. What makes good working conditions in a plant? There's a lot the supervisor can do about it. He's got to make sure that it's a safe place to work in, a place where accidents aren't likely to happen. He has to think about lights, heat, fresh air, and he must play fair with his men. When the men bring their problems to the supervisor, he should make their problems his business. How do I know all these things? Well, I've been working in shops going on to 40 years, and I've worked for a lot of supervisors.